our surprise. It's our surprise stream, Bobby. We're doing a surprise today.
Yes.
So
yeah, we have some work to do, and we figured we'd
why not? So this is not, we're not going to be
out there for no reason.
We're not going to be looking at the chat. We are just trying to, make some content and keep it simple. So today, I in particular wanted to talk about one of my favorite controller devices, one that I've really fallen in love with. It's this guy right here. It's the Nektar Panorama C12. It is really, it's become my main go-to, and I was recommending it to Bobby, and so I thought we would just maybe talk about it a little bit and why do I love it as much as I do. So, and I'll try to keep it, relatively simple here. So let's do this. I'm just going to quickly load up one of my favorite synths, because it can operate in two different ways. It can operate as an instrument controller and a plug-in controller. Now, it shines, it really, really shines. Hold on, let me just make sure this. Oh yeah, it's all good. We're good. It really shines as a plug-in controller, and that's really what it was developed to do, to control plugins. So we'll just take a quick peek over here, and we'll just look at Logic. And for example, if I just have a very, simple little piano here. Right now, this is telling me, the device tells me that I have 3 different plugins. And maybe what I'll do, I think this could be cool, is I'll just show you the actual plugin window in the screen below. I think that might be a good, just so you really get a sense here of what's happening. Okay, so this is my EQ plugin, and you can see here that Logic has taken on the same color coding as the actual colors in the EQ. So each one of these EQ curves has a different color. You can see that's red, that's orange, that's yellow, that's green, and then it's following that color system. So real quick here, we can just use these knobs. We can control the EQ. We can, adjust the curve. We can adjust the quality. We can adjust basically all the most important functions. We want to bypass that particular frequency. Done. Just like a touch of a button. We want to bring up maybe this other frequency here. Again, we want to change the curve. Maybe we want to move it around the frequency. Maybe we want to subtract some frequencies. We want to bypass it. Oops, I didn't push hard enough. There we go. Easy. Okay, so next, I want to go to my compressor. Remember, I'm on the same channel here. Okay, this is all the same instrument. Just move this up a little bit and maybe reduce the size a little bit so that we can kind of see everything on the screen better. So here we go. This is the compressor now. My most important functions, right? There's my threshold. Done. Boom, super compressed. My ratio. Oh yeah, there we go. Not that I would ever want this, but my makeup gain, there it is. Maybe I want a slow attack, fast release. Boom. It's all right there. And then the thing I love about the Logic EQ is you can go through different algorithms, and we can go through every one of those right here with our CS12. It's just all so intuitive and so easy to work with. So final thing here that I always keep on every channel is my decapitator. And by the way, if I want to just bypass the compressor, I just shift and I touch that plug-in. Now we don't have a compressor. One of the other things that I love is we can also shift here, and every plugin is bypassed now. I have no plugins, and there's no way of doing that. There's not any fast way that I know of doing that. And let me just close this down so we don't get those notifications. Okay, so here we are on the decapitator. I have my low cut, I've got my tone, it's very intuitive, my high cut, I've got my drive right over here, I have the output, my style here, This is going through all the different algorithms. There's my output right there and my mix control. Extremely
and there's
well.
no wrapper, right?
What?
There's no wrapper, right? This
Exactly.
is directly.
That's
right.
And that's the beauty. There's no plugin wrapper. Plugin wrappers suck. They really suck in a way that's hard to explain. And because they crash, they're buggy. They're buggy as hell. The SSL one crashed like crazy. The MP MIDI one crashed like crazy. Wrappers suck. For those that don't know, it's a plugin within a plugin. This is all native control. This is all natively being controlled, which is why I love it so much. Now, let's look at this now as a instrument controller. So if we go ahead now and, oh, before I do that, sorry, let's just look at the auxiliary sends. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So if I just bring the channel a little closer, you'll see I have my reverbs here.
Right.
Beautiful. No? There we go. Some delay. I mean, this is just beautiful. My special delay. My H3000. Right? My plate reverb. And you can, it literally is like a console. It's a control strip, right?
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so powerful. So that alone makes this device amazing. And they don't pay me to sell these. I get nothing out of this. Just to say. So now let's look at this as a instrument controller. So I'm going to switch over here to my Juno 106. I'll push the very bottom button here, which brings up the smart controls. And so what I've got here, and what we'll do is we'll also just bring the plugin window so that you can actually see. So what's happening is this is just going to mirror what's happening here. Now, the most important functions on any synth is going to be your frequency. And you can see there, it's moving up and down. And what we can also do, if we want to just get this to look a little bit more obvious where you can see a little better, we'll just really make this big so you can really see what's going on here. Your resonance. Okay. And the beauty is, if I want to record any of that, no problem. I can just, go to touch automation. I just hit record. And I just do what I want. Okay, and then it should be done. Okay, so we go in here and let's see, where are we here? I need to go into my touch automation. We go from volume. It tells us, hey, you know what? You did some cutoff frequency. And then there it all is. You can't see that. Sorry. There it is. There's exactly what I twisted on the knobs, right? So if I say, you know what? I didn't like the way I twisted those knobs. I can just zoom in there and I can say, you know what? I want to just have a nice, smooth, clean movement from here up to there.
Right.
Beautiful. Just so unbelievably intuitive. It just absolutely works. And then, of course, when you're finished, you want to go back to your read automation. Very important. Oh, I guess you can't really see that. Anyway, so yeah. Now, you were also asking about the SSLs. So there's like automation buttons right over here. Again, you can't really see those. Let's just quickly, there you go. From touch to read automation. These are fantastic units, but they have a very different function and a very different purpose.
Right.
Now, the other, just to sort of close off this part of it, the other really important functions are your ADSR. So what I did is I just basically attack, decay, sustain, and release. And then the filter as well. Attack, the secondary ADSR. So I have both ADSRs at my disposal And again, these are the most important functions. I love portamento on synths, so I assigned this to the portamento amount. Oh, you can't see that. I'm so sorry. So this became my portamento amount. You can sort of see it moving there. And I think this is my pitch bend amount, if I'm not mistaken. Bend range. Yeah, right there. So this becomes a full instrument controller, right? Also, if you don't like the way the assignments are set up, like if I touch the EQ immediately, oh, you can't see, sorry, it comes back. So immediately I get my EQ curve. If I don't like, I'm not going to do this, but if I don't like the way that I want this not to be my, frequency amount, and maybe I want this to be the frequency amount, I can shift and move. So you can set it up any way you like. You're not stuck.
Yeah.
They do it incredibly intuitively. Like it really just works. Everything just works nicely. So I love, and then you have the obvious things that, your transport control, which I never use, honestly. Your record and whatever, all that stuff.
Right.
The cycling on and off. The one thing I do use actually a lot more than I thought I ever would is the markers. So you can just add your markers. It's so clean and intuitive. Again, like if we just, if I just bring this out for you a little bit, if I just want a marker over here, I just, boom, there's a marker. If I click on the next bar, I want a marker. There it is. There's the second marker.
Right.
You can see them there. Let me see here if I can get this a little bit. There you go. So then if I want to go to bar 4 and I want a marker on bar 4, boom, now I got a marker on bar 4. If I want on the next beat of bar 4, boom, I got a marker right. I mean, this is worth it. And then of course, if you don't shift marker, it will take you through your markers essentially. So if we just go back here and then we hit marker, I don't know why it's not working. That's really strange. Normally it just will take you to the next marker point, but it's not doing that. And I don't know why. Have I done something wrong? I don't know why. Anyway, edit that part out. Uh-oh. Is it true?
Do you use the volume fader?
Oh yeah.
Or
well,
do you just
okay. So right. The other obvious things that this does, is controls the volume. So if we just go over here and we look at the main, oops, what did I just do? There we go. If we go to the main channel strip over here, it controls completely your volume, nice and smooth, and your panning as well. Super, and the knobs feel amazing. They just feel great. And then boom, just like a console, I go to my auxiliary sends and I got full control. Oh, you can't see them, sorry. There you go. So then I got right there. And then, my panning is right here. And then boom, I need my compressor. And there it is, boom, my compressor open. I got to go to the EQ, there it is. Go to my decapitator. Maybe I want to go back and tweak the synth. Then I've got all the smart controls here. And that would be my only sort of thing I don't like, is that when I go to the smart control, it opens the window automatically, which is great because that's what you want. You want your smart controls, but it doesn't open, for example, it doesn't open the actual synth plugin, but I have a key command for that. So, which is fine. But anyway, there it is. So it's so fast. It's so intuitive. I just love it. Now you were asking me about like, okay, well, what about the SSLs? Because you weren't sure which one you wanted to get. The SSL is really for something different. The SSL is, first of all, let's just do this. Let's maybe get, I don't know, it doesn't even matter here. Let's just theoretically pretend I have, we can actually do this without pretending here. I'll show you in real time here. So I'm just going to make a bunch of tracks here, and then it's loading. What? Why is it taking so damn long? Time to upgrade my Mac. Holy cow, this is taking forever. Okay. There we go. Okay, so let's just get a snare drum. Okay, we'll just take this and, we'll quantize it. And again, we'll just keep things simple. Okay, we'll go ahead and just quantize that as well. And, oh, what did I just do? Okay. Go to eighth notes. Okay. And then maybe just to top it all off, again, just to help make the point. Okay, we'll go ahead and quantize those. And we'll go ahead then and we'll loop everything just to give you an idea. So where this shines and the use case, okay, the main use case here. First of all, as soon as I click on a track, I'm shown where is that track. It's highlighted right there. If I need to move that over, because maybe I want that part of the mix I want over here, you just saw what happened. I just moved it over.
Yeah.
And then, for example, if I've got my kick, my hat, and my snare, and by the way, whatever you label your track, it'll move that label over to this little LCD part right here. But I'll leave it unlabeled for now. But if I hit play, so with one hand, I can completely control.
Right.
And that's, I want all the drums to come back. Fine. Now, the bus is always available as well. So I can take the whole drum bus down.
Yeah.
So the reason that I love this so much, and my main use case, honestly, is when I'm at the end of the mix, and let's just go full screen here so everybody gets the context of what am I doing here. The way and by the way, there's nothing loaded in here, but generally I break down my mix into vocals, woodwinds, brass, strings, timpani, keys, guitars, bass, drums, percussion, pluck string, orchestral, and miscellaneous. The thing that I love about this so much, if I click on the vocal, which is the top, these are all buses, right? So if I click in the brass, that's all the brass in there. So what I love about this is that, boom, all my buses, I've got full control. At the end of the mix, if I'm just like, ooh, those guitars too loud, I can just bring the guitars back. I need more bass, push the whole bass bus up. My drum bus, not quite, hot enough, I bring up the drums. Oh, wait, you know what I should do while I'm doing that? I should do this so you can see what's happening with my hands. There we go. So yeah, if I want, I have the full control over every single bus in my mix. Okay. So all the way down to the master, this is the master fader right here, right? So live tracks, aux, orchestral, pluck strings, percussion, drums, bass. And the reason I have a bass bus is that sometimes I'll load multiple basses, for example. There's my guitars, keys. Timpani is so important to me that I have a separate bus just for timpani. And so this allows me...
Yeah, I found that pretty interesting.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But the point is, at the very end of the mix, boom, I have full control over every single bus in my mix. And that is a very powerful option. It's precisely why I have two of these. Okay, because I have about, 12 to 14 really important buses, and I need control. Then, as you would expect, this becomes a full MIDI CC controller. Okay, you push one button, boom, it just flipped everything. So, for example, now it's only MIDI CC. That's the, I guess, problem or issue, I would say. So if we go back to that synth, which normally I'm going to be controlling from the Monogram, the Panorama CS12, I have, let's see, there we go. So this responds to MIDI CC as well. This will respond to pretty much anything, basically. So I've got my MIDI CC set up to frequency and resonance. And you see one side mirroring the other side on this physical thing. And that's because sometimes I'm playing a pad, and I want to have the control. Well, let's see here. Where are we? Let's get a pad. So if I'm playing a pad with my right hand, and let's get the volume. There we go. So there we go. But if I'm playing a bass pad or a bass line with my right hand, and that's why I sort of have them mirrored.
Right.
So, and then they're all labeled so that I know this is my mod wheel expression. Let's go full screen. There we go. Mod expression, same. Mod expression, cutoff, resonance. This is logic volume. So, oh no, it's not. So what did I do here? Sorry, then this is MIDI CC volume, I think. No,
CC7.
It's not responding. It's supposed to be. See, this for sure is CC7. This is supposed to be responding normally, but I really very rarely use this because I do have the monogram down here. I don't use the MIDI CC layer, hardly ever, because I have the same things programmed down here on the monogram. So if I'm doing the pad, and then, it's not that hard for me to go if I'm doing bass. So I usually use this. So I don't really use the MIDI CC layer as much as I thought I would use it. Mostly I use this as more like a mixer. I very rarely use this. I very rarely, sometimes, it's like I can do the same thing left-handed or right-handed. So you can see now the CS12 moving or this moving, but I also have the monogram to do. So I can, I'm a control freak, Bobby. I'm a control freak. But anyway, those are the use cases. And that's generally how I use these things. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll have to get the CS12. Shit.
Listen, for all-in-one, for sure, I would recommend that over, this guy here, the UF1. Honestly, this is not really that useful. You can do many things that you can do on the CS12. It just doesn't natively take over. You can't use it as an instrument. I mean, maybe you can. I don't know how to use it as an instrument controller. The reason the CS12 is so damn powerful is that the 12 rotary knobs immediately map themselves to the Logic smart controls. Boom. There they are. And that's its power. There are 12, right now there's only 4 assigned here, but for example, if we go back to the Juno 106, there you go. There's your 12 rotary knobs. And they're all being controlled right from here. Boom. And that's its power. It's all native. So no matter what plugin you have open, okay, I want you can't see the plugin window, sorry. But again, if I want my EQ, I just click the EQ. I want the compressor, boom. Okay. Whatever I want, it transports itself to become whatever it is I'm asking it to do. And then again, like the auxiliary sends, I have my main 8 aux sends, with my reverbs and my effects. Boom, it's all right there. So for me, it's a clear winner. It's really the price. I mean, compared to the UF,
$400.
It's really cheap, man. For what it is, it's super cheap. Now, a lot of people are talking about this Melbourne Instruments controller that recently hit the market. Yeah, honestly, like the only thing it has going for it is that it has the tactile feedback. So depending on what you're working with, if you get to the end if you go from 1 to 10, when you get to 10, it'll sort of click and let you know you've gone to the maximum. It's like, that's not really helpful. And then it'll, flying faders snap back, but it looks like a toy. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like and I'm not trying to talk bad. I mean, I'm sure it's amazing.
Right.
Some people love it. I
Does
just
it have
feel
faders?
it doesn't seem
Are we talking about the roto controller?
Yeah, the roto control. Exactly. There's no faders on it. There's not a main fader
Right.
on it. I just feel like it doesn't seem like it looks more like I don't know. I haven't really done the deep dive on it, but as soon as I watched 2 videos and I was just like, no, this is not for me. Not for me.
Right.
So if it doesn't have a button to activate my smart controls, I'm just not interested at all.
Right.
So the smart controls is the little ace in the hole that Logic has. It's really the ace in the hole. It is so important. And I never understood smart controls in Logic before. I was just sort of like, what are these even for? Who is this for? And
Right.
now I know. It's for hardware developers to seamlessly integrate their products. Boom. And the MP MIDI was too little too late. I think they're now bankrupt. I'm not sure, but because I had the MP MIDI for a while, right?
Right.
And when I say too little too late, they originally did everything with the plug-in wrapper, which sucked. It was buggy.
Right.
It crashed. And then finally they figured out what Panorama CS12 and the Nectar folks already knew, which is like, hey, map everything, through the smart controls and make it all native. But it was too little too late. And the MP MIDI could have been the greatest controller of all time. I don't know if they're bankrupt,
Yeah.
but Emanuele seems to think they went bankrupt. So, yeah. Anyway, there it is. And by the way,
let's switch gears.
yes, indeed.
And let's talk about how important professional sound design is.
Well, yeah.
And with the very famous Pac-Man butt bounce.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. First of all, allow me to go full screen. My name is David Logan, and I'm a composer and a sound designer, and I've been doing this for almost 30 years. I know that a lot of game developers feel that with AI, they can just do their own sound design and make their own music now. But the problem with that approach is that you're literally just using everything that has been, and you are not getting the intuition and creativity, because I see myself not as a composer sound designer. I see myself as a game developer whose expertise is in the area of music and sound. And I see myself as a collaborator and a very important part of a game development team. And that's the difference between working with a seasoned professional versus having AI do it for you. Don't get me wrong, your game will still be great if you use AI music. But if you want to have the edge, why not have the edge in every single department? No, including sound design and also music. There, I just had to say that. I'm sure we'll get a short out of that, at least a short, no? So yeah,
I think it's not so much, I mean, AI is one aspect of it, but the idea that there's a lot of expertise to be brought to the table.
Right.
And it's not, it feels like, yeah, I can just grab my synth and smash a few keys and that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not quite. So why don't we start with the story of how hiring the wrong sound designer can make a young composer lose a lot of money.
And I lost a lot of money. All right. I'm going to go full screen for this because remember, we are trying to also generate a few clips, no? So, yeah. So when I was doing the music and sound for Pac-Man World 2, I had other projects going on as well. I was working with Activision and Seven Studios, and I was just busy, and I didn't have the time to do the sound design myself. And it was very typical for me to outsource my sound design. I'm a great sound designer, but I'm a better composer, and I love doing sound design. I do. It's just that it's not the thing that fills my soul. Composing does. So, I had a very, very comfortable budget, really nice budget for the music and the sound design for Pac-Man World 2. I was living in Hollywood, California, and I had connections within the industry. And I'm not going to mention the person's name because I don't like to speak negatively about anybody. But he was a very, very well-known and respected sound designer, worked on very big, very recognizable Hollywood films. Again, I'm not going to mention them because I just, to protect his identity. Regardless, he took the job very professionally, and, for the Pac-Man Snowy Mountain level, he ordered 500 pounds of snow to be delivered to his garage. And we're like, okay, we got 6 hours before it melts, and smashing snow and doing whatever, we had to do. But increasingly, more and more, Namco kept rejecting. They kept rejecting a lot of his sounds. And it got so bad that they flat out just said, you need to fire this guy. We just don't like what he's doing at all. And I was devastated because I spent all my budget on it, and I had to unfortunately fire him. And it was a really bitter pill for him to swallow because, he's 10 years older than me. He's a big pro. Here's this younger 31-year-old producer firing him. He was quite bitter, really angry and bitter about it. But it wasn't me firing him. It was Namco. And I think that's what made it worse for him. But regardless, not a story about him. So of course I had to finish all the sound design myself. And I remember, and by the way, the problem was, and my big mistake, kind of a rookie mistake in a way, was I hired a guy who was amazing in film who did not play video games. He was not a gamer. Therefore, his work was getting rejected, completely rejected by Namco. So I remember very, very well, I was literally with my head in my hands at my kitchen table, and my ex, said to me, oh my God, what's wrong? And I said, oh, this, blah, 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 with the sound designer. And she said, is there anything I can do to help? And I just joked. I said, well, if you want to take all these sound effects libraries and source them all and import what you think is good into Pro Tools. And she said, teach me how and I'll do it. I was like, really? And she's like, yes. So she did. She went through my Hollywood Edge and my Sound Ideas, and all the libraries I had. And the amazing part was every sound she pulled was about 80 to 90% approved by Namco on the first try. Now, she didn't do the cutting and editing or sound design. She did the sourcing. But the point is, she was a gamer. We were gamers. We played games. That was one of the things we did to bond. Therefore, she understood the very basic mechanics of how games work. Therefore, she was able to play, because I had a dev station, right? So I would get a burn of the game whenever there was an update. And, she would sit there playing each level, and then she would, try and find the appropriate sounds. And she was very helpful, incredibly helpful. And yes, I paid her. So I'm sure someone's wondering that. And so I had to do a lot of the sound design myself as well. And I guess, one of the things that I learned about Pac-Man World 2 is that so I always say that sound design is 50% your sound and 50% your intention. Important word there. And so sometimes the simplest impulse that you have is it's correct. So I remember doing the intro cutscene to the very opening of Pac-Man World 2. And I am very proud to say that I am the only voice actor and the only official voice of Pac-Man in Pac-Man World 2. Because he snores. So I literally, with all the computers in my room, I just picked up a SM57 microphone and I was just like, and just made these snoring sounds, and Namco loved it. They're just like, yep, that's great. We're perfect. There's another scene where Pinky is going through the bushes, to spy on Pac-Man. And I couldn't find anything for that. So I just went out to my garden. I grabbed a shrub, a bush out of the ground. And then I just, did Foley. Like I watched Pinky and I'm just like making, and it was like only like whatever, 2 or 3 little sounds of her creeping through the bushes, but it was important, right? So I guess, yeah, the most famous sound that I did in the game was the butt bounce, right? And, I actually have it kind of queued up here. And so let's maybe go over to that. And I'll just, again, it's this idea of absolute simplicity, that sometimes the easiest, simplest thing winds up being correct. So let's go ahead and I'll share my screen here so that you guys can all, see what am I doing here. So I actually went and I found the original timpani that I used for the butt bounce. And that's it. It's right there. That's the original timpani. And the way I did it is I simply used pitch bend. So what I'll do here, we'll just record one hit. Oh, that was cool. We got all
that was cool. That was very cool.
We got all the other stuff that we were doing in this little demonstration from earlier. All right, there we go. So there's the timpani hit. And then all I'm going to do, it was so damn simple. But again, this was approved first try. They loved the butt bounce. So then I'm just literally going to randomly hit the pitch button. Doesn't even matter how I hit it. Why? Because I'm going to automate it now, right? I'm just going to go where it says volume. It says, oh, look, he hit the tuning knob. And there it is. That's what I just did. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to say, maybe I'll start here, try -5 or 6. And we'll go up over maybe that amount of time. Let's try. There you go. That's the butt bounce. That's basically the butt bounce. Now it went a little too high. There it is. That's it. And it wasn't so long, by the way. So, for example, if we just close these here and we go out of touch mode. So, for example, it was, and I'm just, trying to give you an estimation here. So I'm going to print this, printing meaning I'm going to make it into an audio file. And then it would have been shortened to roughly about something like this.
All right.
There it is. That's the butt bounce right there. Now, it's not the exact butt bounce that I did in Pac-Man World 2, but this is a very close example of how I did that. And again, this is the idea, Bobby, that, good sound design, it doesn't have to be like, super complicated. It can be really, really dead simple because look, I'm sure there's like at least one person yelling at their screen like, I could have done that. Yep.
Yeah, sure.
That's sure. Absolutely, you could have done that. But you didn't do that. I did that.
Right.
And that's the difference, right?
Well,
right?
I mean, anybody could say I could have played Mozart's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
Right. Exactly. Anyone could have
did it.
composed that. Exactly.
Right.
That's right. That's right, Bobby. And so, or, Rothko or Kandinsky, some of these abstract expressionist artists who would, just Rothko did these famous, just one line down the center of a canvas, and, you can look at a Rothko and you can say, well, that's a scam. Like anyone could have done that. Well, yeah, but Rothko did that. You did not do that, right? That's not your idea. You didn't do that. And there's a meaning behind it. And, presumably anyway, who knows what the meaning is, but I don't particularly care for Rothko, but I do love a good Picasso.
Yeah, I feel like Jackson Pollock lands in that same category.
Right. Well, but there you go. right? Abstract expressionist, right? Who, hurled and threw the paint at the canvas. And you could say, well, anybody could just splash a bunch of paint, but not anyone can artistically create a Jackson Pollock. Only he could do that. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't matter if you like or dislike any of these artists we're talking about. That's not the point. Okay, let's take in music. Jonathan Cage's 433. 443. I don't think the 10 seconds matters, but whatever. 433. You could say, oh, well, it's just silence. I could have written that. Yeah, but do you even know the philosophy behind 433? Because there was a very deep philosophy, Very briefly, he said, music is made of sound and silence. Composition is the integration of these. And he then went on to describe, originally I had long sounded notes on the piano with long pauses in between until I removed all the sounded notes and was left only with the silent notes. And the point is, music is made of sound and silence is a brilliant and true statement, because that drum beat you just heard, boom, pop, boom, boom, pop, right? Well, it's the space in between pop, pop, pop that makes that beat funky. Well, not even funky, but cool.
Right.
So he was right. So I don't know. Does that cover it?
Yeah. I mean,
Questions?
I would say, with regard to sound design, what is the aesthetic that a good gamer brings to understanding sound design? That it's not just, okay, I need a sound for this, I need a sound for this,
And look,
how important is that experience, and how is it applicable to the day-to-day?
Well, okay. And again, I'm just going to go full screen because we're just trying to get a few shorts, so I may as well go high res for this. I think that part of this comes down to Marshall McLuhan's, theories on mass media, and the medium is the message in particular. This idea that every form of media has an intrinsic built-in effect, and that there's 4 laws of media. Anyway, one of them is that every new form of media replaces another form of media, and the content of any new form of media is an old media. So very good example of this. If you look at films, the first films, they were just plays, but they filmed the plays. So no one ever had the idea of like, move the camera, right? So, and then eventually, and then editing, editing film was originally used by magicians, because once people understood that the idea of film, like, oh, that's reality on that film, they would, have them sitting in a chair, then edit together an explosion with smoke where they're not in the chair. And then people literally thought the magician disappeared because nobody knew about editing. So, my mistake on Pac-Man World 2 was I brought a great film sound designer into a video game, and he didn't understand the mechanics of gameplay, because for me, I'm a gamer to my core. I was, like 10, 11 years old when Pac-Man came out, and I lost all my quarters and Space Invaders and, Donkey Kong. And that was where I lived, in the arcade, and Asteroids and making the music for the reboot of Asteroids and Pac-Man World 2, like 2 iconic games from my childhood. It was just like a dream come true. So I think that a real gamer understands game mechanics because they've played their whole life. Also, what they bring to the table is the culture of gaming, because there's a very strong culture in gaming. And it's very different than, like, let's say, the culture in Hollywood, very different kind of culture. And, I guess that everybody in Hollywood is sort of trying to belong and be famous, whereas gamers sort of all don't belong. It's changing now. It's changing now. The game industry is becoming more like Hollywood.
Right.
But I'm talking about the original batch, like the guys I worked with in LA, literally in Santa Monica, and the guys I worked with in Hollywood who were gamers. They were all disenfranchised. We were all nerds and geeks and, didn't belong anywhere. And gaming wasn't big business back then the way it is now.
Right.
We weren't talking about, like I remember Pac-Man World 2 I asked, what's the budget on the whole game? And they told me it's just shy of 10 million. And then it wound up going over to like 11 million or something like that. That was unheard of. That was an obscene amount of money. And now GTA 6, whatever, it's been 12 years in the making, and who knows how many billions with a B they're spending on it, still hasn't come out. And so I guess what to answer your original question, what are they bringing to the table? They're bringing their art, number one, whether they're a composer or if they're a sound designer, and they're bringing their culture. They're bringing their gaming culture. And this is why me hiring a Hollywood sound designer failed on Pac-Man World 2, because he brought Hollywood pro expertise. Because look, film is linear, games are non-linear. Right there, he's not qualified. And I made a huge mistake by bringing him on. So we're bringing our culture, our craft, and more importantly, and this might be the most important, we're bringing our disenfranchised soul. What do I mean by that? I mean, we are seeking to belong somewhere in the world because we don't feel I know I don't feel I belong anywhere in the world, but when I'm around gamers, I feel I belong. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'll give you a small example. When people say, oh, well, that's on the internet, it's not real life. It's like, dude, this is as real as I get, man. I mean, I'm, so you're going to say that my relationship with Bobby as a business partner and as a friend is not real because we never met in person? That's bullshit, So, and I have this button to remind people, be authentic. And I guess that's the other thing that you bring. You bring your authenticity, your experience, your craft, your art, and your basic understanding of gameplay mechanics, And I don't know. I think I answered it. So I see, by the way, the chat's blowing up. We got Kiwi, got Spin.
I peeked in and out. Unfortunately, this wasn't that kind of stream.
No, I know. But I explained. Yeah. So I'm just saying hi. Right. Hi to Kiwi. We can edit this out if we have to for our guys. We're just trying to do some, materials for shorts and whatnot. So, but hello, everybody. Right. Yeah, you're going to get the story of the, and by the way, Spin, just quickly, the original Butt Bounce Timpani is from that Sample Cell 2 original library. That's where the source is, by the way, just so you know. And I can tell you very quickly, I'll give you because, it's Spin. We got to do Spin a solid on this, man. He's going to really appreciate this. So Spin, this is the official name. It's called Timp B1 HRD MALFF. That is the official Butt Bounce timpani that I actually used, as I recall. It sounds exactly the same. So that's it. I used this on, let's go full screen real quick here. So there it is. Spin, just for you. So anyway, so what else are we good? Are we, I
think we're good for now.
We're good for now. Yeah.
Yeah.
All righty.
Yeah. We'll pick up the rest for tomorrow's stream.
Yes, we're still going to have a stream tomorrow, guys. So this is not a replacement for tomorrow. This is just supplementary content. Yeah. We're just trying to get our social media active.
Right.
Yes.
Consider this the DLC.
Yes, this is our downloadable content.
Right.
All right, cool.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream because we're good to stop. So, hey, goodbye, everybody. I'm not going to end the same way I normally do because I'm just